You didn't think Elliot Spitzer was going out of the headlines anytime soon, did you? As part of Spitzer's Contrition tour, he essentially admitted last night that he did, as we all knew, patronize prostitutes as governor, and he tried to explain why.
It was alleged, and I did not deny, and I faced up to the allegation, acknowledged it. I had participated in seeing prostitutes, and that, when it was going to become public, I said, I will not serve under those terms. It is not proper. It is not correct. We have within us all drives, urges, which should be tempered, controlled, modulated, held in check, that I did not. And I don't know if I can or should need to get a whole lot more specific than that.
Thanks for the acknowledgement, Governor. And in another interview, Spitzer either cried when talking about it or came close to it.
How are you different than you were 5, 6 years ago? What has changed personally?
A lot of pain.
Of who you are.
A lot of pain.
That's it.
Yeah. You go through that pain, you change.
Those tears did not escape Spitzer's opponent in the Democratic primary for Comptroller, Manhattan Borough President Scott Stringer.
I'm not going to tear.
You won't cry.
I won't cry, but I will tell you what I do feel emotional about. Let's talk about New York City and the post-hurricane economy. Let's talk about how we grow this economy.
Nice pivot from the tears to the tears about the issues. The Spitzer candidacy, it seems, has just about everyone talking, including one longtime critic of Spitzer's. Dominic, you spoke with him today.
Sure did, Andrew. Indeed, that critic is Roger Stone. Stone, a famous Republican political consultant who has advised presidents and run the gubernatorial campaign here in New York for independent Tom Golisano. I say Elliot Spitzer for city controller. You say?
Amazing. I'm not sure why Elliot Spitzer, putting the prostitution scandal aside, why he would want a lot of scrutiny of the rest of his public record. I mean, this is a man who was illegally elected with massive multi-million-dollar illegal loans from his father, who lied about those loans under oath in a civil suit, who used state resources to spy, Nixon style, on his political enemies, Joe Bruno. Somebody who, okay, let's talk about prostitution, who transported a woman across 5 state lines, a violation of the Mann Act. Now, in 2009, a New York State Supreme Court justice who was a Republican did that. I think he's still in prison. So I don't know why Spitzer wants to open up this can of worms. There's going to be all kinds of examinations of his tenure as Attorney General. He wasn't the sheriff of Wall Street. He was the blackmailer of Wall Street. His actual record in court, he lost 90% of his cases.
Roger Stone, the clock is ticking. Will he be able, Spitzer, be able to get on the ballot? And is this his race?
I think he would have to give him an enormous advantage because he intends to purchase the race, the same way he purchased the Attorney General's office. Now that his father is non compos mentis, and Elliot has daddy's checkbook, he can just write as big a check as he wants to buy the race. It doesn't get any public scrutiny, but that's what he intends to do. It's a huge advantage. It's a very expensive place, as you know, to campaign.
Okay, Roger Stone, let's end where we started here. You, one-time advisor to President Nixon. You did the Reagan campaign for president twice. You ran Golisano's campaign here in New York for governor. Is Elliot Spitzer the next city controller of New York?
I think there's a high probability, but at what cost? He could become city controller, but with a net unfavorable rating that exceeds his favorable rating and public disdain. Could he buy the office? Yes. But the gauntlet between here and there, how many more prostitutes are going to come forward and say, I had sex with him?
Oh boy. Now perhaps Spitzer and Anthony Weiner won't appreciate this, Andrew, but former Washington mayor, you may recall this name, Marion Barry, says he can identify with them as they try again for public office. Barry was the mayor in the nation's capital when he was videotaped by the FBI in 1990 smoking crack cocaine. Barry served 6 months in prison and won a seat on the D.C. Council in 1992, and then voters put him back in the mayor's job in 1994. Andrew?
Roger Stone doesn't seem to like Elliot Spitzer, does he?
No,
But
it's personal between those two.
And he's had knives out for Spitzer for a long time.
For a very long time, Andrew. But here's the catch. He talks in television sound bites, Roger Stone. He's not going anywhere. He's on television in 45 minutes on another channel. So Spitzer has got a major headache in terms of Roger Stone.
Let's not tell anybody what's on any other channel.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go back to our panel on this. In addition to Tony, Dominic, and Mayo, we are joined by Ed Cox, the chairman of the Republican State Party here in New York. Chairman, welcome back.
Thank you, Andrew.
This must have been like Christmas in July, literally, when you found out, well, not only do I have Anthony Weiner on the ballot for mayor of New York, now Elliot Spitzer's on the ballot.
Not only Weiner, Spitzer, but also Vito Lopez for city council. What a trio. It just says something about the Democratic Party in New York City. That these candidates think they can get away with it and get the nomination from a very liberal Democratic Party, especially those who vote in primaries, and then go on in a walk to win.
Well, Dominic and I put Spitzer as the instant frontrunner to win the Comptroller seat the moment he got into the race. Why isn't he, in your mind, the instant frontrunner? Or is he on the Democratic side?
I'm not sure. It depends whether he can get his petitions done. I think this was a very emotional decision on his part to jump into it. Emotional in the sense he wants to get back into a position of power. He wants to get a hold of that $100 billion plus pension fund money that the Comptroller can invest the way he wants, and also, but more, vote the way he wants. There can be, he can appoint, because he would be the dominant shareholder, he can appoint the lawyers in the suits, class action suits with respect to corporations. He can do a lot of things that he would want to do. He wants power. That's what he wants, get back into a position of power.
Tony, I'm curious. The League of Women Voters, I know you're in New Jersey, focuses primarily on the issues and the candidates trying to get information out to people. Do you worry a little bit that issues are going to matter less in Spitzer's race and maybe even in the gubernatorial race than the people themselves, the characters who are involved?
It's human nature to take both into consideration, you know, especially the personalities and, you know, the different moral behavior or whatever. But as far as I'm concerned, the issues are the most important thing. If a person shows that they can do something that the state needs or the city or whatever it is, then a lot of people just look at that. They don't care about the other things, you know. So as far as the league is concerned, we deal with issues.
Let me open it up to everybody else. Do you think this is going to be an issue-driven campaign, both for Comptroller and at least the Democratic mayoral primary, or is this going to be all about personalities?
I think there's a big issue here. Elliot Spitzer wants to get a hold of the voting power of that $100 billion plus pension fund money, but he's not. That means he's not going to pay attention to the value of it and how it should be invested. And the stock and the taxpayers of New York City will have to make up the difference in the future.
So a lot of people might say that's a plus for Spitzer because he'll, you know, a lot of Democrats want to see that leverage applied against Wall Street firms.
Yes, but the most important thing is make the pension fund invest it well so it increases in value. And then if it doesn't increase in value, the taxpayers of New York City have to make up the difference because what the pensions have to pay out in the future is definite and certain.
Andrew, to answer your question, it's a split answer. If it's up to the tabloids, the only thing they're going to tell us is about Spitzer's sex life. Is there another prostitute? Are there other women? What did he do? How did he do it? And where are those black socks? That's what the tabloids are going to tell us. Spitzer, to his credit, he's good on the issues in terms of substance. He will try his best, and he said he's going to participate in the first debate, even though he's not in the campaign finance system. So that's a credit for him, right, Mr. Chair? You give him credit for that?
Yeah.
Even though he's financing his own campaign, he will focus on the issues. And on the issues, he is head and shoulders over Scott Stringer. The race is over. Scott Stringer has no shot at all.
You know, I'm curious because we had Richard Brodsky here, who's as far on the opposite end of the spectrum from Roger Stone as you could imagine. And he was also not a big fan of Elliot Spitzer's because the sharp elbows, he steamrolls people, he rubs people the wrong way. When Spitzer's political enemies line up against him the way they seem to be doing right now, does that necessarily hurt Spitzer entirely, or does it maybe help him a little bit because people are tired of politics as usual and they don't mind people with sharp elbows.
I don't think that's going to hurt him, because I think at the end of the day it's both, as Dominic said, but it's also a referendum on us, because we have to ask ourselves, do we ever really forgive someone, and do we ever offer people an opportunity to return to society? And if he is capable, that's really what it ought to come down to. Now, if you have two capable candidates, you may choose to go with the one that doesn't carry the baggage that Spitzer has. But if we're not willing to give people a second opportunity to come back, and he has already paid and suffered significantly, I don't think he's going to have any more ability to influence things than the mayor, who is the mayor for $1, yet can award no big contracts.
This is a man who broke the law, finance laws, when he was running for Attorney General, the chief legal officer of the state of New York, and he broke the finance laws right. This is a man who broke the prostitution laws at the very time while he was promoting the prostitution laws. This is a man who's just a pure will to power. That's all he wants.
You know, Mr. Chair,
and he misused the power when he had it. And people, when he had to resign over this prostitution matter, people forget Democrats in the legislature didn't like him as much as the Republicans didn't like him, because he had mutually offended everyone by being Mr. Steamroller.
Mr. Chair, you are correct, and that's going to be a problem for Spitzer in terms of he had got past his first campaign for Attorney General. As Roger Stone argues, he testified under oath. He was accused of lying about, the New York Times did a big front page spread on this. All of that stuff comes back. His tenure as the alleged steamroller. The rap on Spitzer is going to be, he's going to win this in a cakewalk. But does he, almost like a toddler, does he play well with others?
But by the way, we have a very good Republican candidate, John Burnett, who is Chief Compliance Officer at Citigroup. This is a very capable African-American candidate who has decided he wanted to run for Controller. He's going to put up a good race against Spitzer.
Really?
But that's the first time.
We'll get a lot of support from Democrats.
That's the first time I've heard his name come up in all of this. That could be a problem. We're going to take a quick break here on RFL. Up next, public advocate and New York City mayoral candidate Bill de Blasio arrested today. We'll tell you why after a quick break.